Welcome to 11 on the Ice Overtime, sponsored by Don's Appliances. And the Penguins, well, they're having a little bit of a rough patch right now. Penguins have lost 4 straight, and they're 1-5 since that 11-2 win over the Detroit Red Wings. So let's bring in Phil Bourque and Dejan Kovacevic and start with the problems that the Penguins are having and what help they might get if that second line gets it together. Phil?
Over to you, Phil.
First of all, let's start with some of the problems, and I'll talk a little bit about the second line. I think for me, the mismanagement of the puck, not sorting out a rush in the defensive zone coverage, and really feeding into other teams' offensive. It's a sense of urgency. It's a sense of pride. And, you know, even just driving over here to the show tonight after the Washington game, I was trying to put myself in the locker room as a former player. And what would I be thinking right now as we're starting to unravel here a bit? I would look myself right in the mirror and say, what are you doing? What are you doing to be a difference maker? More guys need to do that. Take it upon yourself. Be a part of the solution where you think you're probably a part of the problem right now. So I think each player has to look at himself differently. But the X's and O's part, especially for me, guys, is not turning the puck over. And in the defensive zone coverage, more urgency. Like your life depended on it, because you're going to blink, it's going to be game 1 of the playoffs.
Now, see, here's the part where I take the 2 Niners concept and really drive it home the way he should have. Hear me out. If Phil Bourque is looking in the mirror and asking what more he can do in a game, his greatest strength as a player and what had his career take off and solidify in the NHL was his forecheck. He was a relentless, fast, and angry forechecker. He got in there and made a difference. This team right now has 0 of that happening. And you can say what you want about Zach Aston-Reese and Dominic Simone and whatever else here, but they contributed to the forecheck. Brock McGinn contributed to the forecheck. This team needs to get back to being in people's faces. When you go over what this team did well when they were beating the Tampas and the Torontos,
and won 10 in a row.
And by the way, the one time they beat the Rangers, how did they do it? They were relentless in the New York zone. That has gone missing. If it's the older guys getting tired or whatever it is, I don't know and I don't care, but they have to rediscover their own inner Phil Bourque.
If I could just expand on that real quickly. Yeah, you're right. The forecheck, I remember when the Penguins were on that 10-game winning streak, like, how were they doing it? The foundation of their house was their forecheck.
100%.
They were, and you could stop, you could freeze the frame, and you see 1, 2, 3. There's 3 Penguin jerseys around the puck. I don't see that as much.
Nope.
And a lot of times when they dump the puck in, they dump it just to get it off their stick, or they dump it and they give it to the goaltender. Goaltender sends it to a teammate, or just dumps it out. Dump it with a purpose. Dump it to retrieve it. Mm-hmm. Don't dump it just to chase it.
The other night in New York, when the Rangers had one of their 2 goals off the rush, Adam Fox looked up. He had all day to make the pass that he wanted to make. Yeah. You can't do that. You can't allow that. Not with this team's system.
They'll get better.
All right, let's talk second line, Bourque.
With Evgeny Malkin in the middle, listen, Gino, as good as he's been, Gino has another level. We know he does. And again, the details got to get back in Gino's game. The little mistakes, the little turnovers, they might not seem like much, but again, they're hurting the Pittsburgh Penguins. So Gino's one of those guys that needs to look himself in the mirror and say, can I play a complete game without hurting this hockey team? Listen, just because you do 4 things right, the one thing bad can be really bad. Gino's going to take it out of his game. And I think Mike Sullivan is going to keep Rickard Rakell, Evgeny Malkin, and Jason Zucker together here down the stretch here, because these 3 can potentially be difference makers. They're all 3 of them can put the biscuit in the basket, and I think they just need to gel. They just need to form some kind of chemistry where they're not thinking so much of, oh, where's Rakell? Oh, where's Gino? Oh, where's Zook? Because when you're thinking, you're hesitating, the game's too fast.
And the question is, how do they gel? What's required for that? When I look at Rakell right now, and Phil and I are on the same page that we like what we see of him. However, there's one thing that he does, and this isn't something wrong necessarily, that gives me pause. He has the puck a lot. And when you do that, and you're out there with 71 can disengage from the play. And that is a dangerous place for him to be, because then something inexplicable will follow. He, for whatever reason, through the course of not just his career, his whole hockey life, has needed to have the puck on his stick. That's why I was so disappointed that it didn't work out with Jeff Carter on that right wing, because I thought, man, there's something that makes sense to me, you know, that he'd be a shooter. He plays rod hockey right up and down the wing, and you just Raquel. We'll see.
All right, Phil and Dan, we've agreed, talking on the show this week, that worried isn't the word, but maybe concerned is the word for Tristan Jarry. Talk about the state of the Penguins goaltending and Tristan Jarry from a confidence level as he heads into postseason.
You know, I'm not seeing a dip in confidence, Phil. I'm seeing a guy that, look, it takes a little bit of extra energy to make sure you're on every angle, that your glove hand goes up as quickly as you're used to having it go up. Jarry's a guy who's out there, for anybody who doesn't know this, first guy out for every practice, first guy out for every optional skate. He doesn't take any of these off. Now, that's his prep, and that's his right to set himself up for the game the way he needs to be. To me, if I'm the Penguins, I'm sorry, I'm looking at these standings right now, and I'm sitting him for a little while. It's definitely not punitive, and definitely not because you're worried or something. He just needs to be at his sharpest. I really think that's the difference right now.
Yeah, no, fatigue can be a factor. They're not robots. I get that, and sometimes you have to say, or just a very firm suggestion, if you will. Hey, let's take a few days off here. Let's take these morning skates off, and let's work off the ice, and that way we keep our mind clear. I just think he needs to have a game where he has a goose egg or a one up there, because more times than not we're seeing 3s and 4s and 5s, and that's not Tristan Jarry like. And listen, it just seems like there's one goal per game now. We're just like, wow, like that one shouldn't have got by him. He's too good.
Orlov.
He's too good of a goaltender, and then he'll make 4, 5, 6. I call him a Cirque du Soleil gymnast out there. Some of the saves he's making, but you know it goes hand in hand, because whether we're talking about a quarterback or a pitcher or a goaltender, we want to just point the finger at him and say, "Oh, it's his fault." How about the players? How about the players rallying around their goaltender and helping him put a goose egg up there, so they all feel better about themselves?
He certainly carried them this far.
He certainly has.
All right, Bourque, Dan, thank you so much. That's 11 on the ice. Overtime for this week. I'm Alby Onxenreiter for the entire team. Thanks for logging in. We'll see you next time.